This NBA Christmas Day betting picks edition of the NBA Gambling Podcast on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, the sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month and start making smarter bets today. Welcome, everyone, to the NBA Gambling Podcast, part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Sunday, Christmas Eve, currently 7:37 p.m. on the East Coast. Here to get into the Christmas Day games for the NBA schedule. And joining me, I got my guy here with me. It's Scott Studio Reichel. Scott, what's going on, my man? How you doing?
Yeah, doing pretty well. Looking forward to the Christmas games. I know we had some injury news on one of them, which we'll talk about in a little while. But overall, can't complain. Had a nice Friday episode. Swept. Had the Nuggets minus 4.5. Actually went to the game, so I was sweating it out in person.
There you go.
And Jokic had those 2 free throws with like 2 seconds left to win by 5. And then I had Sabonis triple-double at plus 310 against the Suns. And he was cruising. Then you're worried about him getting pulled, but they decided to let him pad his numbers there at the end, and he got there. So overall, off a sweep, can't complain too much. How's it going with you?
Yeah, I can't complain. NBA last week was up and down for me. I had like a couple of good days and a couple of bad days. I think I evened out a little bit. NFL today was really good for me as far as player props. But other than that, yeah, it's been an eventful week, and now we're getting into the final week of the 2023 year, and it's for some, Scott, they say that it's the start of the NBA season when the Christmas Day games are on, but we've been grinding it out even prior to the season starting with all of our division previews and such. But yeah, exciting games tomorrow, as they always are on Christmas days. All 5 games, I guess we can say, are marquee matchups. But let's just dive right in.
Situation for you? You have one TV football, one NBA. How are you going to go about it?
Yeah, I'm probably going to have I'll probably have NBA on the main screen, and then I'll have the football on to the side. And then because only because we have one game on at each time, right? Because we have NBA that starts earlier, like around 12 o'clock East Coast.
Yeah.
And then the first NFL's game is around 1 o'clock Eastern time, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe so. I think it's set up that way, but let me just confirm. I know the late game's obviously going to be normal, like 8 o'clock. Yeah, it's 4:30 and 8 o'clock. So
yeah. So yeah, we'll have one screen for the NBA, and we'll have the smaller screen for the NFL action. So definitely looking forward to it. Should be a great day of games for not only the NBA but also the NFL as well. Yeah, Scott, let's just get right into it, man, so we can get this pod out to the people. Hopefully they can listen over time, and we can find some winners for our listeners. So first game, it's going to be a 10 Eastern start between the Milwaukee Bucks and the New York Knicks. Bucks in Madison Square Garden for the second consecutive game. These two teams just matched up on Saturday, and the Bucks took care of business in that game pretty handily. I'm trying to pull up the score from that game. I know they won by, I think, was it like 20 plus, if I'm not mistaken?
They won by 19 officially, but they were up 20 with a couple minutes to go.
Yeah. The final score in that game, 131-11. Giannis, 28 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists. Jalen Brunson contributes with 36 points and 7 assists. But they're right back at it. First game on Christmas Day here, Scott. Bucks laying 3.5 against the Knicks. What are you thinking about the spread here?
Yeah, I think the line's too short. I'm actually a little bit confused why it opened up so short. It opened up at around 2.5. Now it's a 3.5. There's no way it's closing at 3.5. I expect it to actually balloon upwards to maybe 4.5 or 5. But I do think you're looking at Milwaukee just being a bad matchup for this team. Milwaukee's won all 3 meetings. They won the last 2 meetings by at least 19 points. We just saw in that last meeting, Brunson was going off. He had 36, I believe, and it didn't matter anyway. The Knicks' defense without Mitchell Robinson's abysmal. They can't stop anybody. You're looking at all the other supporting cast members of the Knicks, and you know Brunson is easily the best player on this team. Like, that's a given. Yeah. But you're looking around at the rest of the roster. Randall, we know, goes invisible from time to time. I'm not an RJ Barrett guy. I've been anti-RJ Barrett on the show for 3+ years, and I've been anti since he was at Duke. I'm not a fan at all of his game. I think the supporting cast role players, like the glue guys, are fine. but you're looking at who I think can step up as the second or third scoring options for this team. And for the Knicks, I don't trust their second or third option on a regular basis. And Milwaukee has that because Middleton's a very good third option. Lillard's been better lately, a lot better lately. And Giannis is Giannis. So I think when you're looking at the main issue the Knicks run into, the Bucks just have significantly more scoring depth. I didn't even mention Malik Beasley, who's had a very good set of games against the Knicks as well. But Milwaukee's been rolling. Defensively, they've gotten better. They're not a great defensive team, but they have improved as the season has gone on, so I'll give them props for that. But the Knicks, I just don't think have enough firepower to match this team offensively, especially when your defense is kind of in shambles now that your rim protector, your defensive anchor, is out for the rest of the season. So I'm going with Milwaukee. I see a pretty similar story to what we saw earlier this weekend. Maybe not by 19, but Milwaukee by like 10. I think Giannis has a game, Lillard has a game, and I think even if Brunson does have a big game, I don't trust Randall and Baird and the other guys. So give me the Bucks minus 3.5.
Yeah, I mean, everything that you mentioned there, right? And I think it's especially the biggest thing for me is that you mentioned without Mitchell Robinson anchoring this defense, it's just been really bad for the New York Knicks. And just to put into context, 21 games with Mitchell Robinson this season. I'm trying to put up their rating. The Knicks had a defensive rating of 113.8 with Mitchell Robinson, allowing 112 points per game. 7 games without Mitchell Robinson, they have a defensive rating of 122.6, giving up 122.3 points per game. So they're giving up 10 more points per game without Mitchell Robinson. It makes sense, right? Because again, he was your defensive anchor and give you that rim protection. And without him there, guys like Giannis can just obviously attack the boards. Bobby Portis, even Brook Lopez, can get there as well. I know he runs a 3-point line, but it's just too easy for this Milwaukee Bucks team scoring points inside the paint here. So I think when we get closer to game time, this number will balloon up to, like you mentioned, probably 4.5, 5.5. I wouldn't be surprised. Just to put into context here, on Christmas Day, the Bucks are 3-2 straight up, 2-3 against spread, 4-1 to the over. Knicks on Christmas Day, 1-4 straight up, 1-4 against the spread, and 3-2 to the under. So I expect the Bucks. I think nothing has changed here. So give me the Bucks minus 3.5. Total sitting at 242 in this game here, Scott. Any thoughts on that?
I think I have to lean to the over because I just don't think the Knicks can stop anybody. It's really just looking at the Bucks team totals against this team. In the last 2 games against the Knicks, they're averaging 138 points. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to lean to an under when Milwaukee might walk into 130 again. And they kind of called off the dogs there late in that fourth quarter. I'm going to lean to Milwaukee team total over. I'm going to lean to the over in general. I just think the Knicks, without Mitchell Robinson, are not equipped to handle the paint, especially with Giannis constantly being a freight train to go to the rim. So give me the over. I think Milwaukee probably scores 125, 130 again, and the game goes over.
Yeah, I think for Milwaukee, I'll look at their team total to go over. I played this on Saturday because it was the early start between these two teams. I took the first half under, then came back with the second half over. And that worked out very nicely for me. So I think that's that's the way I might just attack it again. Again, an earlier start for this first game, and then maybe take a little time for these two teams to get going again. And then we see the offense ramping up in the second half. So I think that's how I will play it. Player props. What are we looking at here?
I think that you're looking at whichever big 3 option you want for Milwaukee or big 2 option. Lillard was fine last game. Giannis was fine as well. It felt like it was kind of a well-balanced attack by the entire team, where Malik Beasley had like 5 threes and everyone was hitting shots anyway. But I can expect Giannis to have a better game. He's been a bit quiet offensively to some degree compared to his 60-plus points he put up a couple weeks ago against Indiana. But he had a pretty small triple-double against the Spurs in terms of points. Had 28 points against the Knicks last game, but he only took 17 shots, and he only attempted 8 free throws. So it does seem like Giannis could be more aggressive if he really needs to be. He didn't need to be. So it's kind of a matter of what that you expect to happen. Lillard was the same way. He had 19 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists. Middleton at 20 points as well. I think I like Bobby Portis off the bench in this game. He had 23 and 11. He's been really good off the bench in general for several years. But with Hartenstein moving into the starting lineup, who's the Knicks' backup center? Do they have anybody? Like Jericho Sims are going to throw out there for a little bit? They got nobody in terms of front court depth.
Yeah, I was just going to mention Sims is injured too. He's not
They
going to
got
be playing
Taj
in this
Gibson.
game.
I forgot they got Taj Gibson now. Yeah,
he's
I'll
good
take
for
my
5
chances with Bobby
minutes.
Portis. I think Portis is a pretty good option with a bench player because it's also a spot where if it's a blowout, Portis gets more minutes. So I do think it's kind of game flow proof in a way where Portis might get extra run time if they blow it open early. But Kobe, to answer your question, I don't know why Milwaukee would have traveled back when they were against the Knicks over the weekend. They probably stayed, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's Saturday. Today it's Sunday. Yeah, so I'm guessing they probably just ended up.
There's no point in going back to Milwaukee to fly back. Like, no, I'm assuming they stayed the weekend.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they stayed as well. So not a big travel situation for Milwaukee. So yeah, answer your questions asking. I didn't have anything for the Bucks just because, again, like you mentioned, that it may turn into a blowout. But for Bobby Portis, I do like Hartenstein's rebounds. It's at 9.5. He did have 13 in the game on
bunch
Saturday.
Of offensive rebounds in that game.
Yeah, and a lot of his rebounds have been coming from offensive rebounding. So on Saturday, 7 offensive rebounds of the 13, 5 of the 10 against the Brooklyn Nets, 7 of the 17 were against the Lakers, 6 of the 10 yet against the Clippers were offensive rebounds. So do like that for him. And then maybe Damian Lillard assists in this game. He's had back-to-back games of 7 assists. It is at 7.5 at plus 114. So if you're able to find it at 6.5 with some, I guess, a little less vig, I don't hate that for Damian Lillard in this game. But yeah, those are the couple I was looking at. Anything else that you like?
I know the Bucks have a hard time guarding Brunson because he's kind of dominated them in 2 out of 3 games. I'm not sure if the Bucks even pivot defensively because they still won the last game by 19 points. Like, I don't know if they're going to change anything. Do you think Brunson just has another massive game? Because the concern you run into is the fact that it's a standalone game on TV. It's a holiday, so everyone's going to be betting the game. Every over is going to be juiced in this game. Like, every single number is going to be inflated. So you can argue maybe a contrarian play on Brunson, but I don't know if they can guard him. So I think I'm staying away from Brunson. I kind of wanted your thoughts on that because he's done very well against this team over the last couple of years, but especially in 2 of the 3 meetings this season. But I'm just concerned by how inflated these numbers are in the actual standalone games.
Yeah, what's his points prop? I think for maybe this early one, maybe people won't be paying attention just because it's a very early start.
It is the Knicks.
Yeah, that's true.
It's the Knicks and Bucks. It's a high profile market in Giannis. So
yeah. Brunson's points are at 26.5. I thought it would be like around 27.
I thought it would be higher.
28.5. Yeah.
I still like the over there at 26.5, but
yeah,
I'm just saying for future reference on some of the players that you're looking at, keep in mind that there might be some juiced prices to overs because of how public all these games are going to be.
I mean, you can also look at his shot attempts against the Knicks this season. So in the 3 games, the first one on November.
Who else is going to shoot?
Yeah, November 30th, he had 30 shot attempts, 26 on Saturday, then back on December 5th, he had 22. So
what did Barrett went 5 for 17? Randall went 8 of 17. Yeah. Randall also had 10 free throws, so maybe if you want to go for Randall and you think that he gets to the line a lot, that could potentially work out. But
yeah,
once again, Brunson is the main matchup problem that Milwaukee has, at least in terms of trying to stay in front of people. So I don't know why Brunson would, stop shooting. They lost the game anyway, but he had 36 points. It wasn't his fault they lost. Can't stop anybody.
Yeah, I think I would still be on Brunson at 26.5.
Yeah.
On the over. All right, Scott, anything else for this game?
No, not really.
All right, before we get over to the next game on the Christmas Day schedule, let me tell everyone about DraftKings. Look, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving new customers an exclusive offer just for NBA fans. So exclusively for the NBA Gambling Podcast, there's an exclusive offer for NBA fans. So this week, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 instantly in bonus bets, plus score an NBA League Pack subscription on us for the rest of the season. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SGP. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting $5 plus score an NBA League Pass on DraftKings. Only on DraftKings Sportsbook with code SGP. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1 1-800-GAMBLER.net. If you're in New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resorts in Kansas. 21 plus age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. League Pass reward issued as promo code to redeem subscription and must be claimed by January 15th, 2024. See DraftKings.com/promos for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. And we're also brought to you by Hall of Fame Bets, a sports betting research platform for parlays, player props, and game lines. You can win bigger by betting smarter in this NFL season and NBA season with Hall of Fame Bets. Enter any parlay idea into Hall of Fame Bet's revolutionary parlay optimizer tool to get hit rates broken down by leg, as well as an expected probability for the entire parlay. Sort all players by hit rate for any bet to learn which players are hot and which picks have value. Stop betting in the dark and join over 30,000 users researching with Hall of Fame Bets to craft more intelligent, data-driven parlays. Download the Hall of Fame Bets app or visit hofbets.com and use promo code SGPN to get 50% off your first month today. Start researching, start winning with Hall of Fame Bets. All right, Scott, let's keep it rolling here. Next game on the schedule, it is going to be the Golden State Warriors. They are going to be headed to the Mile High City to take on the Denver Nuggets. Currently seeing the Denver Nuggets are a 4.5 point, or somewhere they're a 6.5 point favorite. Currently over on DraftKings with a total of 233.5. Take a look at the injury report for both of these teams. Let's start here with the Golden State Warriors. Obviously, they will be without Draymond Green. Gary Payton II is out as well with a right calf strain, and Andrew Wiggins is officially listed as questionable. He has an illness. For the Denver Nuggets, two guys that are probable. KCP is probable, and Aaron Gordon is probable as well. And Kankar is going to be out for this game. He is recovering from left knee surgery. Couple of tidbits I did find here about this game here, Scott, before we actually get into the side and total and player props for this game. This is going to be the Denver Nuggets' fourth game on Christmas Day, and all three of their games have been at home for the Denver Nuggets, and they haven't fared very well on Christmas Day. They're just 1-2 straight up, 0-3 against those spreads. 0-3 against the spread, and for
that was the Phoenix game last year.
I believe so.
Eric Gordon poster on Shamit. That was Christmas.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So let's start with the side here. -6.5 in favor of the defending champions against the Golden State Warriors. What are you thinking?
So I got to see this team play on Friday, and then they had a back-to-back because they played Charlotte the day after, and they won but didn't look good in that game. So it's the third game in 4 nights. Fatigue might be an issue. I'm taking the points with Golden State. I just think that this line is a little bit too large to me. The Nuggets' actual starting lineup is incredible in terms of efficiency numbers. Their bench is awful. I don't think enough people actually talk about it, and I got to see it in person. Their bench unit is abysmal. They got no scoring at all with their bench. And Golden State, I do think, has the ability to potentially outscore Denver in those bench minutes. Now, I'm not saying this team's better without Draymond Green, but I will say the chemistry is a lot better without Draymond Green. I do feel like that's been on display when you look at the actual huddles on timeouts and just the overall chemistry, whether or not Gary Payton II and Steph Curry knew the spread in the Wizards game. The point is, you see them making jokes on the sideline, Chris Paul flipping off Klay Thompson. It's all good-natured stuff. But the point is, I do think that Golden State's playing good basketball, and I do think Denver, once again, even though I know how good Jokic is, I know how good this overall starting lineup is, they really need to reinvent the bench unit, because right now they got Reggie Jackson jacking up shots with like Peyton Watson, and you're throwing in like a little bit of DeAndre Jordan, and you got Najee playing. They got no bench at all, and I got to watch them get killed in those bench units against the Nets. I think Golden State has enough depth to take advantage of that bench unit to hang in there. I'm going to lean to Golden State. You mentioned that Denver's had some issues covering big numbers on Christmas before. Golden State's also played a lot of Christmas games. This isn't exactly unfamiliar territory, but I like what I've seen from Golden State recently. Denver, I think, is good, but they do need to make some roster adjustments, just some small ones with the bench. But until then, I think Golden State's a decent matchup, and I do think they're going to be able to hang in there. Give me Golden State plus 6.5.
Yeah, I love Golden State in the spot. I feel like this is one too many points here for the Denver Nuggets. The Golden State Warriors have won 6 straight games, and like you mentioned, right, it's finally that Steve Kerr made the adjustment in the starting lineup. And I know Andrew Wiggins has been missing a couple games, but prior to his illness, he started Pods, he started Jonathan Kuminga, and Kuminga has looked really good once he was inserted into the starting lineup. And he's also, he does a great job on the defensive side of the basketball as well, does Jonathan Kuminga. So I think that gives him, I guess flexibility is maybe not the right word, but I think he's a better contributor on the offensive side of the basketball than is Draymond Green, right? Obviously, I guess scoring the basketball is what I'm trying to say. We know Draymond Green really initiates the offense for the Golden State Warriors and has for a very long time. But you take a look, they're also putting up the points. I mean, they put up 124 plus points in 4 out of their last 5 wins, and they've scored at least 118 in all 5 of those wins. And like you mentioned, the offensive clicking, Klay Thompson has looked like he's found some type of form here. I'm not saying he's back to the player he was prior to those injuries.
A lot better than he was earlier in the year.
Yeah, I mean, look, last 5 games, he's averaging 32 minutes per game, 24, but close to 25 points per game, shooting at 51% from the field, 46% from 3-point land. So, and they've needed every bit of it just because, Steph Curry can only carry your team so much. So, and you mentioned, right, Denver hasn't looked
they're winning.
I mean, on the road,
they're not winning by margin, but they're winning. They're winning some of these games.
Exactly.
They're close though.
Yeah. So I like the I like the Golden State Warriors here with you as well. Just for the context, 11-2 straight up for the Denver Nuggets at home, 7-5-1 against the spread at home as well. And we talked about the woes that the Warriors had last season, right, on the road, and those seems like they have corrected themselves a little bit here thus far this season. So just to put the numbers on it, Warriors this season just 6-8 straight up on the road, but they are 8-6 against the spread thus far this season at home. On the road. So I like the Warriors here with you. Give me the plus 6.5. What do you think about the total here? That number currently sits at 233.5.
Golden State's had a lot of high-scoring games lately. Denver likes to slow the pace, but I do think that the over is probably the play based on how Golden State's going to want to play this game. They're going to want to run. That's just how they're going to want to play. They've been playing very fast recently with or without Draymond. You could argue faster without Draymond because they have a lot more small ball lineups and they tend to just run and gun it. I'm going to lean over in this game. Denver's defense had a hard time stopping the Nets. I was there. They could not get many stops in that game. I do think that the perimeter defense for Denver is fine. KCP is a good perimeter defender. Murray's okay. But I do think that they tend to lose track of guys off ball from what I've noticed this season, and I do think that can be an issue against Golden State in particular. I'm going to lean to the over in this game. I'm assuming you agree, but we're probably expecting a high-scoring close game.
Yeah, I'll probably look at Warriors team total over, but I don't hate the full game over either. We mentioned the numbers, right? They're putting up points and they're playing at a faster pace are the Golden State Warriors. So I can definitely get behind the over in this game. And like you mentioned, I'm trying to pull up the numbers of what they've actually done as far as pace over the last 5 games here for the Golden State Warriors. Let me see if I can find it here.
Visually, they got to be up there because they've been playing really fast.
Yeah. Let's see. So last 5 games for the Golden State Warriors. They are number 13.
Okay. Feels bad. Okay.
I'm sorry. No, that's not. That was season long. I'm sorry. Last 5 games, they are actually dropped down to number 17,
really?
but they are top 5 in offensive efficiency. I think that's where it's making up as far as pace for the Golden State Warriors. So yeah. All right, Scott, player props.
Yeah. Do I blindly take Jokic triple-double? Feels like it probably makes sense. He hasn't had one in a couple of games. He was 1 assist short against the Hornets, but I think it's still a good spot for him. I don't mind Jokic triple-double. I think Murray has a good game. He's recently gotten back into form. I don't know if he reached 30. I think he reached 30 against the Nets. I think he had 31, like 27 or something in the second half. He was really good in that game. But I do think I'm looking at Murray and Jokic to have solid games. Curry, mostly star power guys. I do like Pode's rebounds. which has been a very solid prop since he joined the starting lineup and just since he really came to the league. Guy can rebound for a guard.
Yeah.
So I think that he's worth a look as well. I'm trying to think of who's going to benefit the most from the bench minutes. Kuminga technically starts at this point.
He's been
So I
starting.
don't know. I was going to say, so am I looking like a Moody? Like I'm trying to think of who I'd go for. I think Moody threes is tempting, but I do think that Golden State can capitalize off this bench unit that Denver has. So I'd probably look to target maybe a bench guy or two that can give you some offensive punch.
She has been coming off of the bench for
some of the starters. They'll like stagger into the bench units. That's why it's kind of
Trace Jackson Davis, but I'm not sure if he's actually
I like
getting
his rebounds.
Yeah, if he's actually like getting minutes.
He's had double doubles the last couple games at 10 and 15.
Yeah,
I think he
but
got
has that been in garbage time, or is he actually like coming off of the bench?
No, he's actually coming off the bench. He's giving him good minutes off the bench.
Okay,
I like his rebounds.
I don't see his number posted yet.
But he's a bench player, so it's probably gonna be right before the game. But he's had a couple double doubles. He had 15 rebounds that last game. That might be worth a look.
Yeah. Jokic rebounds. I'm gonna play that. He's had a lot of success against the Golden State Warriors, rebounding the basketball at least. I'm trying to pull up the exact numbers I just had in front of me. So against the Warriors, just over the past 5 games, he's had. So let's go back a couple more. 19, 17, 15, 12, 12, 14, and 13. That number's at 12.5 right now for Nikola Jokic. So I do like the over on his rebounds. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go chalk on Christmas Day because I feel like people that are playing like superstars like Curry and like you mentioned, like we talked about with Jalen Brunson, like everybody's going looking at their overs and stuff. But Steph Curry at 28.5, I don't hate that number for him. I think he'll play well on Christmas Day. But yeah, anything else for this game?
No, I was trying to think if there's anything else I like. I think that it's an interesting matchup between Gordon and potentially Kuminga. Because Gordon, we know, is mostly cutting to the basket, and he's very aggressive at going to the rim. Kuminga fouls all the time. It wouldn't shock me if Aaron Gordon found himself with like 15 points just by rim running the entire game.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it, like, and that's where a lot of assists for
Jokic
comes from, especially with Aaron Gordon when he's, cutting to the basket. So I think that, I'm always a proponent of playing Jokic rebounds and assists to go over because more times than not that it's cashing. But I think it's definitely worth a look either for Gordon points or even his rebounds here for this game against the Warriors. All right, Scott, before we get over to the next game on the schedule for Christmas Day, let me tell everyone about Underdog Fantasy. You guys can come play alongside with us or make your own account and play alongside your favorite fantasy players all season long, whether it's in the NFL, whether it's in the NBA, NHL, college basketball, college football, whatever it might be. Simply pick higher or lower on your favorite players' fantasy stats and cash in. Stay tuned at the end of the episode. Scott and we're going to put together an Underdog Fantasy entry for the Christmas Day games. So you guys can watch along, and you can also make your own picks, like I mentioned, and maybe make a little extra cash on Christmas Day, courtesy of Underdog's mobile app or their website, underdogfantasy.com. And look, if you don't have an account already, this is the perfect time because you're going to be spending time with family, opening gifts, and all that good stuff. And you want to make a little extra cash. If you don't have an account, you know what? Underdog is going to double your first deposit of up to $100. But they're only going to do that if you use promo code SGPN. So again, go to underdogfantasy.com. And if you don't have an account yet, make sure you use that promo code SGPN. You'll get that first deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, promo code SGPN. All right, Scott, next game on the schedule here. We're going to the West Coast. Let's get to the Boston Celtics. They are taking on the LA Lakers. Currently, the Celtics are sitting as a 3-point favorite in this game with a total of 234.5. Looking at the injury report for both of these teams, Kristaps Porzingis is questionable for this game for the Boston Celtics, and that is the only significant injury. Lakers, as usual, listing Anthony Davis and LeBron James as questionable for this game, but obviously they always are questionable. They end up playing. Rui Hachimura is probable. Also, Cam Reddish is questionable for this game. He is sitting with some left groin soreness, and Jared Vanderbilt is probable for this game. He has a left heel injury, but he should be able to go in this game. Scott, let's start with the side here, a -3 in favor of the Boston Celtics. And for LeBron James, this is going to be his 18th Christmas Day game here, Scott. But Celtics -3 on the road here. What are you thinking?
It's a pretty tricky game to predict because the Lakers have not been good lately, and they ended up beating OKC. LeBron had 40. They switched up the offensive line. Offensive line. I switched up the lineup for this team, where they finally told D'Lo to take a hike, and they put him on the bench, and they looked a lot better because of it. Thank God. If you enjoy watching D'Lo in yellow, you better savor it because he's going to be traded in a couple months. But anyway, the Lakers at least are making some changes. So they're trying to make stuff work because they've been abysmal since winning the in-season tournament. Boston's been very good, just simply put. Now, you're looking at Boston, and they're a team I've mentioned several times before that have a ton of talent. They're probably the most talented team on paper in the entire league from top to bottom. The problem is I don't trust them in close games in the fourth quarter, and I think Mazzulla sucks. Now, luckily for them, I think Darvin Ham's bad too. So you can argue that it's kind of the lesser of two evils approach. Which coach do you actually think is better between Darvin Ham and Joe Mazzulla?
I think I got to go with Darvin Ham because last season was his first full season as a head coach. And obviously, when you go from being an assistant coach, last season, or Darvin Ham's last year was the second year?
I think it was both their first years, I think.
Yeah. So what I'm saying, we talked about this and you were pointing this out last year as well. Like for Joe Mazzulla, he was absolutely atrocious down the stretch, and I think that also has carried over to this season. But I think I give Darvin Ham the edge just because he has LeBron James on that bench with him as well. Because we talk about guys that are kind of an extension of the coach on the floor. Mm-hmm. Guys like Chris Paul, Steph Curry, LeBron James, those guys come to mind. Where for the Boston Celtics, like I don't get that. Like you don't have that type of player, right? So. And again, last season, I think for Darvin Ham and for both Joe Mazzulla, it was a growing thing because they went from assistant coaches to head coaches. But I think for Darvin Ham, I would give him the advantage in this game because I feel like he's gotten better year over year over Joe Mazzulla as a head coach.
So I'm going to agree with you, but once again, the point is it's close. They're in the same ballpark, which is well below average head coach. But the point I'm trying to make here for the Celtics, they've done well in the head-to-head. They have won 4 of the last 5, but the last 2 meetings did go to overtime. So if you do want to bet on a really degenerate play, overtime in the game's kind of fun. I think I'm going to lean to... I think the Celtics, once again, are the more talented overall roster, but do I just think with Porzingis being out, assuming he doesn't play, do the Lakers just dominate inside? Like, the Lakers might be trading 2s for 3s the entire game because they're not a great three-point shooting team.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to lean Lakers, but I really don't feel great about it. My main argument is it's a home game. We know the Lakers are a lot better in LA, but I see it being a coin flip game, and if you're going to give me points in a coin flip, I'm going to take it. I'm going to lean Lakers, but there's no chance I play the side. This game is going to be a very interesting one, so I'll lean to the home team in a pretty unpredictable spot.
Ooh, I'm going to go. I like the Lakers in this spot. Boston on the road this season are just 3-8-2 against the spread. And I know a lot of for the Boston Celtics, big numbers, and also like Kristaps Porzingis has been in and out of the lineup for them as well. But this Lakers team has been really good at home. I know they've been struggling since they came out of the in-season tournament finals and winning it and all that good stuff. But I mean, they've been pretty good at home. If this was a road game in Boston, I would probably be on Boston. But the Lakers at home this season, I believe they are 10-3 straight up. LeBron didn't play in that Friday game against OKC, but I did think he played up in that in the OKC game on Saturday. Catching points at home where a team is 10-3 straight up. I like the Lakers in this spot. I think LeBron will do LeBron things. I mean, you take a look at what he's done in Christmas Day games. I know we'll talk about player props here in a minute, but averaging 27 points per game. 7 rebounds, 7 assists on Christmas Day. He's also been shooting it around 49%, close to 50% from the floor. So I think Anthony Davis should have a big game because we talk about this Boston Celtics team. They just don't have that big body to defend Anthony Davis. I think Robert Williams still said this would be a different story, but I think LeBron and Anthony Davis can get wherever they want at the rim in this game. So I'm going to go with the Lakers plus the 3. I like them on the money line here as well. Total is sitting at 233.5 in this game. Sorry, 234.5. What are your thoughts on the total?
I think I'm going to lean under in this one.
Yeah.
I can't take the over in every game, but I do think you're looking at, once again, a spot where if I'm picking the Lakers to win this game, I think they have to try to slow the pace, and I think they have to try to guard the three-point line as well as possible by limiting transition chances for Boston. I'm hoping one bad quarter kills it because we know that the Lakers love to play in the half court, especially in the fourth quarter, and the Celtics play way too much half court in the fourth quarter because they're not very good at it late in games. So I think when you're looking at a close game, in my opinion, I think that bodes well to the under because Boston's going to go very stagnant offensively, a lot of ugly isolation possessions, some contested fadeaway jumpers, and I think the game's going to turn into a bit of a rock fight in the last couple minutes. So I'm going to lean to the under. I think it finishes somewhere in the 220s.
Yeah, I'll lean with the under here as well. Lakers at home this season, 10-3 to the under, averaging only about 220 points per game. And then I guess the counter argument for me would be is anytime I bet a Celtics under it, like I think 90% of the time it ends up going over. But you mentioned the pace. I think that, it'll probably slow down in the second half. And then who do I trust more in that second half when it gets down to crunch time? It's definitely LeBron and the Lakers because, again, you've mentioned this several times that Joe Mazzulla down the stretch is just not very good. So I think when the pace does slow down, it gets into half-court offense. I do trust the Lakers more as well. So leaning with the under here as well. Player props in this game here. Scott, what are you looking at?
I think I have to like AD in this game. Al Horford is a pretty good defensive player, but he's not the same defensive player he used to be. But AD is just such a matchup problem, and especially with him having a day off or two to prepare for this game, he should be ready to go. The main issue with AD is on back-to-backs, he tends to no-show second halves, and there's some issues there with durability. But when he has actual ample rest time, he usually dominates. And I think it's a good matchup for him here. I like AD to have a monster game, either with points, rebounds, maybe blocks as well. But I do think that AD is going to be the main source of attack for the Lakers. We saw him have a big game against the Thunder last time out. Not as big as LeBron, but still, the point is I do think that AD is in line for a pretty big game here. LeBron assists, I think, is appealing. You can argue maybe a triple-double, but I don't think he's going to get there. But I do think that LeBron is going to handle more of the actual ball handling responsibilities now that D'Lo is out of the starting lineup. They swapped in Reddish. So to go through the starters, by the way, they had Reddish, LeBron, Vanderbilt, Prince, and Davis, which means LeBron's basically the point guard. So if he's going to be the point guard for this lineup and play the point forward role, I kind of have to look at assists because he might be set up in a Luka spot where the ball's in his hands all the time. And just based on the quantity of possessions, he's going to find ways to get assists. So give me LeBron over the assists, and I'll go with 80 points and rebounds. I think AD has a big game. If AD went for like 32 and 17, I would not be surprised at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. Like you mentioned, they did move D'Lo to the bench, and they're starting now.
I'm assuming you co-sign that move, right?
Oh, yeah. I think that, this is probably not a hot take, but D'Lo's days are numbered in LA as a player for the Lakers, at least. But I think they've gone to more of a defensive lineup. And again, I think this bodes well for our like towards the under because Jared Vanderbilt has stepped into that starting lineup. Taurean Prince is in that starting lineup now, and Cam Reddish, I think, has found his role with this Lakers team, right? And it's just about being a defensive anchor for this Lakers team. So, and again, all of your offensive output is going to be from AD and LeBron. LeBron in that game against the Thunder, where they did make that lineup change, he ended up with 40 points in that game, right? And both AD and LeBron had 20 field goal attempts in that game. So, again, to answer your question, I 100% agree about the move that they did decide. And again, D'Lo only ended up playing 17 minutes in that game as well. He did finish it with 15 points, but it's Austin Reeves and Rui Hachimura, the first two guys off of the bench for the LA Lakers. But I think who's somebody in the chat pointing out that Kobe said that LeBron's assists at 8.5. I think at that point I'll probably just look at playing a triple double for LeBron. I know AD gets a lot of the rebounds as well, but I think that might be worth a look for LeBron on Christmas Day for him to get a triple double. Anything else with this game here, Scott?
No, not really. Once again, leaning to the Lakers and only to the under.
All right, next game on the board here, we'll go to South Beach. The Philadelphia 76ers headed to Miami to take on the Heat. Heat currently sitting as a 2.5-point favorite in this game with a total of 225.5. And obviously, the big news in this game is going to be for the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid is out for this game. He is dealing with a right ankle sprain. Nicholas Batum also out for this game. Robert Covington is probable. That is it for the Sixers. For the Miami Heat, Jimmy Butler is questionable. Haywood Highsmith is questionable. Josh Richardson is probable. And that is where we are at. So big news here, obviously, for the Sixers. Like I mentioned, no Joel Embiid on Christmas Day for the Philadelphia 76ers here. Scott, I don't know if you want to expand on Joel Embiid sitting out for this game, and then we can get into the spread here of the Heat minus 2.5.
Yeah, he's scared of Miami. No, just kidding. Apparently, he has an ankle sprain, so
Yeah.
he's not going to play in this game. It's I want to say surprising, but he's been missing practices recently, so it's not exactly a shock. I'm shocked he played the Toronto game. I thought it was a pretty standard spot for him to sit against Toronto and then end up playing on national television. I thought that was a pretty standard move. Instead, he had 31, 10, and 9 against Toronto, and Tobias Harris somehow had a monster game. I don't know how that ended up happening, but they had a big 3 performance from those two and Maxey. I feel like for this game, everyone's going to take Miami solely because Embiid's not playing. I'm going to zag here. I'm going to take Philly. I think from years past, this Philly team does tend to get up for spots without Embiid. And I do think that even though Miami is a team that has been playing pretty good basketball recently, they still are not great as home favorites. They're only 8-6 straight up at home this season. They beat Atlanta by 9 last game. That game was closer than 9, though. That game was pretty close throughout. Beat Orlando by 9 the game before that. They've been playing better basketball, but I just feel like everyone's going to be liking Miami in the spot. And I think Philly's more live to win this game than people anticipate. So I'm going to go a bit contrarian here. I think a lot of people are once again going to look at the Heat at 2.5 and go, what a steal. Embiid's not playing. They got no chance at winning. I disagree. I think they actually have a chance to win anyway. I'm going to lean to Philly. I think it's a good contrarian spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's the rule that and Terrell has always said this, that anytime you see the Miami Heat as a favorite, despite who they're playing and who's on the court or who's not on the court, you typically want to fade that team. So this season, Miami as a home favorite, yes, 8-3 straight up, but just 4-7 against the spread. And if you want to
straight up, I think, right?
As a home favorite, I see 8-3.
Oh, home favorite. Sorry.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm sorry. And then going back to last season, as a home favorite, 38-16 straight up, but against the spread, 19-33-2. That's less than, or that's around 62.1% if you're betting the underdog when the Miami Heat are favored at home. So,
doesn't this look trappy to you conceptually? Like Embiid's not playing, and now Miami's laying less than 3 points. This looks very trappy.
So, I was looking at the lines on Friday, and I want to say Sixers were favored by a point or a point and a half. But I think Embiid is worth more than 3-4 points of the line, don't you think? Or do you think it's about right?
Too, but unless the argument is Butler might not play because he's questionable. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens
because
Butler hasn't played in 2 straight games. So maybe he'll play. We'll see. But it just feels like this line's off. And I don't even mean that in a sense that like you have to jump on Miami because of the reputation of not covering at home. It feels off because it feels like they're just daring you to take Miami. Doesn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So I'll lean Philly.
Yeah, lean Philly here as well. Thoughts on the total here? 225.5 for this game? Yeah.
I think I'm going to lean over because Miami's been okay offensively. They scored at least 115 points in 3 of the last 4 Actually, I got to go further than that. It's 4 of the last 5 at least. The one exception was 108 against Minnesota, who's probably the best defense in the league, so that's not a bad showing either. Philly's been great offensively. Now, I know a lot of it's Embiid, but they're going to probably play faster without Embiid. Maxey might have a big game. You might end up seeing a spot where they just run it a bit more with Embiid being out. Maybe Paul Reed. Maybe they go smaller. I'm going to lean over in this game. I think the pace will be there, and I think the points will be there. So give me the over.
Yeah, I think that we'll see the pace faster for the Sixers in this game without Joel Embiid on the floor. Erica pointing it out as well in the chat, and you mentioned it here as well, Scott, that it should be a big Tyrese Maxey game without Embiid on the floor. 2 games this season without Embiid. One was against the Minnesota Timberwolves, who are one of the best defensive teams in the league. He was held to 16 points in that game. Did have 8 assists, 7 of 19 from the floor, but against the New Orleans Pelicans, 33 points, 13 of 25 from the floor for Tyrese Maxey. So do like Maxey in this spot here. If Jimmy Butler does not play in this game, I look at Tyler Hero. I was on his PRA on Friday against
he flew over that, I think.
Yeah, it was like 32.5 or 33.5, but he flew over. He got over the points as well. But again, keep an eye out for the status of Jimmy Butler in this game. But what player props are you looking at, Scott?
Yeah, I think for this game, Maxey, of course, is the given. I don't mind assist potentially if you want to make a pivot. I'm trying to think of if I want to back Tobias Harris off of a big game, arguably his first big game in I don't know how many years. Like that was a monster Tobias Harris game. I don't think we're going to get that, but I do think that he's going to be the guy that has to step up if they want to have a shot to win this game. With Embiid being out, I think that Tobias, maybe if you want to go with PR, that might be worth a look because somebody's going to have to rebound the ball. I think Tobias might be in a decent spot here.
Let's see his numbers. So without Embiid this season, 15, 12, and 14, 6, 4, and 5 for his rebounds. But like you mentioned, last game he did have 33 against Toronto, and that was a game with Joel Embiid out there. But yeah, look, outside of Maxey, I mean, that has to be the next guy that has to step up for this Sixers team. I don't think that's a secret. I know they also have guys like Kelly Oubre who could get hot from 3-point land as well. There was a game randomly where I think Embiid was out and Patrick Beverley absolutely like went off in a game. I think he had like 25 plus points in that game, did Patrick Beverley. But yeah, those are the kind of I was looking at. Hero PRA if he does go, if Jimmy Butler does not play in this game. Do you think Bam has a big night on the boards without Embiid there?
He should, but I'm with Terrell on this one, where every time I pick Bam to go over rebounds, he shows up with 6. So I don't really want to play that game. I also want to mention, by the way, since you mentioned Bam, I don't mind Caleb Martin rebounds, but I am looking at his points in rebounds, and that's at 14.5. He's been flying over. He's gone over in 8 of his last 10 games. I think he's gone over in 11 of the last 13. But if Embiid's not going to play, Sixers probably go smaller. And I do think that Caleb Martin is a very good rebounder for his size. We saw it in the playoffs last year, for example. But 14.5 points and rebounds. He's gone over in 8 of the last 10. That's good enough for me. It's about even money, plus 105. And there's good value on that.
All right. Anything else for this game?
No, not really.
All right, let's get over to the last game of the Christmas schedule. We got the Dallas Mavericks. They are headed to Arizona to take on the Phoenix Suns. Looking at the injury report, let's look at the lines here first. Phoenix is a 4.5-point home favorite with a total of 236.5. Looking at the injury report for this game, Kyrie Irving out, Maxi Kleber out, and Josh Green is going to be out as well. Derek Lively II is questionable for this game. For the Phoenix Suns, Eric Gordon is probable. Yusuf Nurkic is out for this game as well. Bradley Beal is out as well. Watanabe and Josh Okogie are probable. So let me go with the guys that are officially out for the Phoenix Suns. Bradley Beal, Damian Lee, Yusuf Nurkic are all out, and then probable tags.
I forgot Damian Lee was still in the league.
Yeah. Watanabe, Josh Okogie, Nasir Little, and Eric Gordon are all probable for the Phoenix Suns. Scott, let's start with the side here, -4.5 in favor of the Phoenix Suns, the home team here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just give me Dallas money line. Like I can't stand this Phoenix team. I just can't. Like I've made several comments about Phoenix during the offseason. I thought the Beal trade was laughable. And I thought getting Nurkic back in that Ayton trade, I will give Nurkic props. He has been
He's
better
been
than I
really good for them,
expected.
actually. Yeah.
But the issue is, once again, he has had durability concerns, and I don't think he's good defensively. So I think that he's going to bring his own red flags with him, despite him being a good rebounder and being a bit better with passing compared to Ayton, for example. Beal's barely played. That's not a shock either, because he has gotten injured for the last couple of years anyway. But the main issue that I had with Phoenix in the offseason, it's why I know all of us loved their win total under, which, as if you want to hear a joke, was in the 50s. Remember that? Phoenix's win total being in the 50s? Good times. But the argument was that we made, or that I made at least, was when you put that much money into 3 guys and one of them's not going to play, your bench unit's screwed, because you have to use a bunch of veteran minimums to try to fill up the rest of your roster, and the bench isn't very good. Eric Gordon's fine. He has been playing less recently, and he's already been vocal about playing less, and he wants to play more, so maybe he gets traded. We'll see what happens. But I can't trust Phoenix. I've seen this team get blown out by Sacramento. They barely beat the Wizards. They blew a double-digit lead to Portland. I know they're at home in this game, but I don't like this team. I think the makeup of this team is flawed, and I think that Dallas, yes, they're missing a lot of guys. I get it. Dallas, you could argue, mentally has an edge over this team because they won the playoff series, obviously. Phoenix has done pretty well since then in the regular season meetings, but I'm going to lean to Dallas here because at least I know what they are. Phoenix is a team that gets so much, I would say, respect from the marketplace, and they haven't earned any of it. It's all based on projections and expectations, and they've underachieved every step of the way. I know Lonte was very anti-Frank Vogel during the offseason, and I was defensive of him because he won a title with the Lakers. I don't think he's done a very good job with this team, but the roster has had issues. Nurkic is out now as well. So I do think that even though Dallas might be missing Lively, maybe he does play, and that gives them a bit of an edge on the inside. I'm going Dallas here. The Suns team, I think, is a psycho team that's not very good, and I think that they're overrated based on the market. So if you're going to give me an overvalued team laying 4.5 against a team that's done pretty well in the past against this team, I'm taking the 4.5 or the 5. I think Dallas might win the game.
Yeah, and the Mavericks have been really good on the road this season, right? 9-6 straight up, 9-6 against the spread, 10-5 towards the over. Are the Phoenix Suns? Are the Dallas Mavericks on the road? And I mean, like you mentioned, I've gotten burned by this Phoenix Suns team over the last week. I swore not to go back to them, and I'm not going to in this spot. Luka is going to do whatever he wants in this game. We've seen that historically, like you mentioned, in the playoff series, and I think this is going to be a game where I feel like there will be a lot of points being scored. We'll get to the total here in a second, but I don't think the Suns are warranted, like you mentioned, to be anything outside of 4 points in this game. And at home this season, the Phoenix Suns 7-8 straight up, just 5-10 against the spread. As a home favorite, 4-8 against the spread are the Phoenix Suns. So I like Dallas in spot here as well. I'll take the points here. Total in this game at 236.5. Scott, the second highest total on the board, I think rightfully so. But what are your thoughts on the totals here, or on the total here?
I know a lot of people are going to love the over because you have Durant and Booker and Luka, and I get all that. I kind of like the under in this game. Like,
Okay.
I just feel this number is way too high. If I'm picking Dallas to win this game, it does mean that I'm expecting Phoenix's offense to struggle, and they are missing some depth pieces with this roster. I'm going to lean to the under. I know a lot of people will be on the over in this game, but I don't know. I think Dallas, and kind of similar to what I said about the Lakers game, I can see this game slowing down a lot in the fourth quarter. So I'm going to lean under. 236.5 is kind of massive. I'm going to lean under in this game. I think it ends up low 230s, high 220s.
Yeah, Phoenix is bottom 10 over the last 5 games, defensive rating wise. Dallas is also below league average defensive rating wise.
Do you have the pace numbers for these teams?
Yeah. So last 5 games, Dallas is number 4 in pace. Phoenix is at number 18 as far as pace. That's over the last 5 games. And then season long, the Mavericks are pretty consistent. They are at number 8, so a little bit faster over the last 5 games. The Phoenix Suns season long are, where they go? Phoenix. Bottom 7, but they are playing a little bit faster over the last 5 games. So
I'm gonna lean
Take
under.
that for
I might be
okay.
dead wrong on this one, but it just feels like this number's a bit high.
Yeah, I'll lean with the over in this game. I mean, the numbers are there, right? Phoenix at home are, let's see here, 11-4 towards the over. Mavericks, like I mentioned, 10-5 towards the over in their road games as well. And again, I'm not a believer in this Dallas defense. I just think they're going to kind of go out there go out there and let Luka do his thing and just try to outscore their opponent. But yeah, I'll go with the over in this game here. All right, player props, Scott. What are we looking at?
So I know Luka, of course, is an insanely talented player, and I know that he's one of the favorites to an MVP.
Mm-hmm.
This point total's absolutely massive at 36.5. Now, I know he had
Is
40.
it?
He had like a 39-point triple-double in 3 quarters against San Antonio. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. To go through the numbers, though, in the regular season against Luka, he really doesn't touch 40 that often. And I'm going to go through the numbers here with Luka in the regular season against Phoenix. 34, 0. He only played 3 minutes in that one game. He got injured, so I'll ignore that. So 34, 33, 35, 28, 25, 29, 32, 18. 36.5. It's like massive. That's such a massive number.
I get it.
Do you think Phoenix lets him go crazy, or do you think they just basically trap him and dare anybody else to make shots?
So I think I we've seen in the losses over the last 5 games that the Dallas Mavericks have taken, that opposing teams have got or had let Luka get whatever he wants and then like buckle down on the rest of the team. And if you take a look at, all right, who's not being the Spurs right now, because that defense is the worst in the entire National League, or sorry, in the entire National Basketball Association. But against the Clippers, he had 28. They lost that game in 44, but that was a really bad shooting night for him, 9 of 25. Against the Denver Nuggets, he had 38 points. They lost that game by 26. Against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he scored 39, and they lost that game by 18. So it's like, all right, let's just let Luka get whatever he wants. It's going to be pretty much.
They still lose.
Yeah, they still lose. And then for the Dallas Mavericks, like, all right, like, who can we trust without Kyrie Irving in this lineup to provide that scoring support to Luka? Because I think, like I mentioned, like over the last 5 games, he's averaging 37 points per game. And the number is at this number because Kyrie Irving's out in that lineup, right? Because then that's why he's putting up these type of numbers right now over the last 5 games. So it's crazy, but at the same time, you think about it, it's maybe not that crazy because
I understand it. I just would never personally take an over 36.5.
Yeah, and I think the last time I took an over for Luka was 33.5. This was, I think, want to say last Friday. I think it was I forgot who it was, but he had like 30 at the half, and then he finished the game with 40. Did Luka. So maybe look at his assist in this game. He's been doing a pretty good job of dishing it out and getting rebounds as well.
Well, that's the problem, though, is that if you think they're going to let Luka go off for points, then the assists are going to. I like the rebounds for Luka in this game. That's probably my favorite prop for Luka because both teams are missing centers. Or you're assuming Lively's not going to play. So I think that you're going to see Luka rebound the ball well. I think he'll be in triple-double range. I'm not sure he gets there, but I do think the rebounds get there. So I like Luka rebounds in the spot.
Yeah, it is 9.5. It is a little bit juiced at -140, but yeah, obviously I couldn't talk you off of that. Luka walks into any gym like Jokic and can put up a triple-double. So any other player props, maybe, like, is this a Devin Booker like FU game to Luka, or is you just Luka?
That's what you think.
Devin Booker's head.
I don't want to say Booker's been bad lately, but he's been kind of underwhelming recently. He really hasn't had a good couple of games in a row at this point. So I probably don't want to back him. I'd probably back Durant points. I don't think anyone in Dallas can guard him. So I think you're looking at a spot where who gets the assignment? Tim Hardaway Jr.? Like, good luck.
Yeah,
like,
good luck.
Have fun with that. I'll go with Katie to have a big game. But Booker, I want to make a case for Booker because I know him and Luka hate each other, but Booker has really not played that well for the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to stay away from him. At least for points. Maybe assists, but not for points.
Points, he's at 30.5, 31.5 for Kevin Durant. I just trust Kevin Durant. Yeah, I just trust Durant more to be more efficient. at least getting the points. I don't hate Durant rebounds either. Obviously, without Nurkic there, he's the next biggest guy on the floor for the Phoenix Suns. His last game, it was 7.5 on the rebounds, but he finished the game with 7. He's also been turning the basketball over a lot. Last game, he had 7 turnovers against the against the Sacramento Kings. Had 5 against the Portland Trailblazers as well. So if you want to look at a turnover prop for Kevin Durant, that's in play as well. Any other player props, Scott?
No, not really. I was thinking if I wanted to make a case for a role player on either team, I think Hardaway Jr. threes is actually pretty tempting in the spot. The fact that I don't know if he's going to make him, but he's going to shoot him. I mean, we saw Luka not play in that game that they got buried in against Houston. He took 17 shots in the first half of that game.
Yeah,
Hardaway Jr.
I was watching.
It didn't go well. It didn't go well. Him and Hardy
like
combined to go like 8 of 32. It was disgusting. But the point is, Hardaway Jr. we know is not afraid to shoot the ball. So if you are expecting anybody to step up, Hardaway Jr. is going to jack up a bunch of threes. So I don't mind Hardaway Jr. threes in the spot.
Yeah. So they had Azubuike coming off of the bench for them. Did the Phoenix Suns?
He was good.
11 and 11.
Yeah. I mean, I remember him at Kansas. He was this really tall guy who couldn't shoot free throws to save his life, but he can run around. He can run under the rim and dunk. So I don't mind him. Yeah, why not?
Yeah,
they might have found something.
Yeah, that'll be like you mentioned earlier that some of these role players and bench players would probably be closer to game time to find.
Some of it was also garbage time based, though. The minutes are going to fluctuate because Sacramento was curb stomping them from the opening tip. So I do expect Azubuike to have a decent game, but his minutes are going to get cut back. He only played that much because the Kings were up basically 25 or so, 30 in like the third quarter. That game was over.
Yeah. Erica asking if we agree on Brunson points and Maxey points and KD points.
If you're doing a parlay, I'd probably bump KD down to 30, but I like the others.
Yeah, I again, we talked about how Brunson has absolutely had a lot of success against a Milwaukee Bucks. Don't hate that. Maxey, again, without Joel Embiid there, his usage rate will be through the roof. Like I mentioned, he had 33 in the last game without Joel Embiid on the floor. So I do expect him to play a lot of minutes for the Sixers. And KD. Between him and Devin Booker, like I mentioned, I push KD more because he's a little bit more efficient is Kevin Durant. And again, he can score from any part of the floor as well. All right, Scott, let's get into our lock and dog here for the Christmas Day games, and then we'll put together our Underdog Fantasy entry. You want to lead us off?
Yeah, so my lock's going to be pretty straightforward. I'm going to take Milwaukee minus the 3.5. I just think there are tiers in the Eastern Conference, and even though I was very low on Milwaukee's defense early in the season, it has gotten better, and the Knicks' defense, it's not their fault. Mitchell Robinson's out for the year. It sucks, but it is what it is. They own this team. They've won all 3 meetings by at least 5 points. They won the last 2 meetings by double digits, and I think that the Knicks can't stop this team. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. No travel involved because they played against the Knicks over the weekend. Give me the Bucks minus 3.5 as my lock. That line might fly to like 4.5 or 5 before game time. So I am going to go with the Bucks now at 3.5 as my lock. For my dog, of course, I'm tempted blindly by Dallas. The question is, do I want to go with Dallas or do I want to go for like a triple-double type play? I don't know how wild I want to get with this one. Let me just quickly see if there are triple-double prices that are even up at this point. Are the triple-double prices up? Okay, let me just see what I got here.
Who are you looking for?
LeBron's too cheap. LeBron's at like 650. That I can't take. That's too cheap. Luka's at 175. Pass. So give me Dallas money line. I think Dallas is in line to have a solid showing against a team that they can't stand. And I do think that the Suns are still overvalued. They're not a very good team, and they're not very good at home. Give me Dallas money line. I think at plus 160, give or take. That's a good price. If you want to parlay that, Luka, 30. Luka 30 with Dallas money line. I can try to build that right now. That might get you north of 2-1. I probably prefer that, right? Because if Dallas is going to win, Luka has to drop 30.
Yeah.
So let me build that right now. If Dallas is winning
this game, if Dallas is winning the game, like you mentioned, he's going to have, I think, 40 plus.
He might have 30 regardless. 30 plus. If we're being honest with ourselves. So let me just quickly see what that same game parlay would pay. But once again, if you don't have access to same game parlays, I still like the Mavericks money line at like plus 160, but I am going to experiment here because I think Luka's going to have a very good game. It's just that 36.5 conceptually is a line I can't take. So it comes out, no, it doesn't come out anything. Like 30 plus is minus 500. Okay, so that's a waste. Yeah, I'm just going to take Dallas money line at plus 160.
If you want to get spicy, maybe Luka triple double and Dallas Mavericks money line. That might be a nice payout.
I mean, maybe, but I don't think he necessarily needs to get the triple double. Like that's kind of the thing where I'm adding extra risk to it. Plus, he's had some triple doubles in games they've lost anyway, so I don't know if that even matters. I'll just take the money line.
All right. All right. For my lock, I will go with let's go with the Warriors plus the 6.5. The team is clicking right now, man. We talked about it. They've won 5-6 straight games. Steve Kerr got his head out of his ass and finally made an adjustment to that starting lineup, inserting Pods and Kuminga into that starting lineup. Klay Thompson has found some form as well. He's been playing very well recently, being very efficient from the floor. I think Steph Curry does Steph Curry things as well in this game. I think this game does come down to the wire. So I thought this was a little bit too many points here for the Denver Nuggets. So I'll take the Warriors plus the 6.5 as my lock. For my dog, I'm going to trust LeBron on Christmas Day. Small puppy dog, plus 120. If you want to add like a LeBron, like 25 plus and Lakers, money line to get a little bit more of an exciting price on that money line or that payout. I don't hate that, but I do expect this to be a big AD and LeBron game. But Boston, they just don't have the horses to guard Anthony Davis. And again, another lineup change for the Lakers. Like we talked about, D'Lo going to the bench and them going to more of a defensive lineup, inserting Jared Vanderbilt. So you have Vanderbilt, you have Taurean Prince, Cam Reddish. Anthony Davis has been great defensively, and LeBron can, he can get stops as well. So I like the Lakers in this spot. Lakers plus 120 on the money line for my dog. Scott, let's put together our Underdog Fantasy entry for the Christmas Day games. Again, if you haven't already signed up for an account with Underdog Fantasy, make sure you do that. UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code SGPN. That'll get you a first deposit bonus of up to $100. Again, UnderdogFantasy.com using promo code SGPN. All right, Scott, let's put together our entry here. Where do you want to start?
So we can start off with the star power players that we're thinking about. I know Luka's points are way. Well, do you want to go LeBron assists or no? At 8.5, or do you like rebounds more?
I think
do you want AD instead? I feel like we need either LeBron or AD in this.
Yeah, I think AD rebounds I feel better about.
What's that? Like 12.5?
It's at 13.5 though.
Okay, 13.5.
Yeah. LeBron, let's see.
Do you want LeBron PRA?
Yeah, it's at 44.5.
What about rebounds? Think how bad that actually is. 44.5. I mean, that's really not that bad. I mean, if you're expecting to get 30, that's 38 and 7. That's fine.
Yeah. All right.
That's not bad.
Let's do that. All right. So let's go LeBron, PRA, higher 44.5. What else do we like? Yeah, I think we got to put Brunson in there. He's just been a monster. Yeah. So we'll go higher on Brunson, 26.5. I don't want to put Hero in there just yet.
You know, Maxey? What's Maxey at?
Maxey, they have it at 31.5 for his points.
I mean, there's going to be a massive inflation for Embiid being out, so that does make sense. But
you want to go like Luka rebounds?
I was tempted by rebounds. I mean, someone's going to have to rebound the ball for that team.
Yeah, it's at 10 assists and 10 rebounds.
Yeah. 10 rebounds. These whole numbers are killing me.
Yeah. Like, because it's 9.5, like minus 140 on the books, but obviously for these fantasy for the fantasy projections, they'll probably just round up to whole numbers.
I'm trying to think of what else we want to go with.
All right, let's see. Jokic rebounds, Curry. Anybody on the Warriors side that we like?
Do I dare
Chris Paul assists?
I mean, that's been pretty good lately.
Yeah, it's at 7.5.
I mean, he's been flying over that recently.
Yeah, let's just look what he's done over the past couple games here. I mean, he's been in double-digit assist in 4 of the last 5 games.
It's been really, really good. Yeah, I think that might be the move.
Yeah, I like this. And
Okay.
he's had at least 8 in 5 straight games as well.
Yeah.
All right, so let's do Chris Paul. Yeah, I like that. All right. So our entry is going to be LeBron PRA higher 44.5, Jalen Brunson higher 26.5 points, and then CP3 higher 7.5 assists. That $100 entry will get you a nice payout of $600. All right, again, go to underdogfantasy.com. Use that promo code SGPN. If you don't have an account already, they'll match your first deposit of up to $100. So come join us, come play alongside with us, and maybe they'll put an extra little cash over in your pockets. Shout out to the chat, man. A lot of people joining us here on Christmas Eve. New faces in here as well. We got Erica in the chat there, Parlay Prince, so the usual suspects as well. I know Cape Quest was in there. Colby was in there. So appreciate all you guys tuning us in with us on Christmas Eve. Scott, anything else we want to mention, my man, before we get out of here?
No, not really. I don't celebrate the holiday, but Merry Christmas. There we go. Happy holidays.
Just Scott responds.
Just saying. I don't celebrate the holiday. So I saw somebody commenting before, don't you have families? No. In fact, we don't celebrate this holiday. So no, I've been available the entire day.
This is what tells you about the NBA Gambling Podcast. It's 8:47 on Christmas Eve that we're putting out a pod for you guys for the Christmas Day game. So if I don't see any reviews coming in, hopefully good reviews in the next week, I'm going to boycott the podcast. So if you haven't already, do us a favor, leave us a rating and review for the podcast, whether it's on Spotify, whether it's on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you do get your podcast player. All right, make sure to follow Scott on Twitter /X, whatever you want to call it, at Reichel Radio. You can follow me on Twitter or X at SportsDirt824.
I'm going to keep calling it Twitter. I'm not going to stop.
I still call it Twitter. Yeah. And you can follow us on Twitter as well, the NBA Gambling Podcast at SGPN like Scott mentioned, have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. We'll talk to you guys on Tuesday. We'll be back to regular programming for the NBA pod. Enjoy the Christmas Day games. Till then, good luck with your bets. Let's break these books off and let it ride.